What if the scariest monster in Westeros isn't a White Walker, isn't a dragon gone rogue, and isn't even Ramsay Bolton on his worst day, but is actually your own cousin smiling at you across the dinner table while plotting your complete destruction? A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is gearing up to deliver a betrayal so vicious, so personally catastrophic, that it'll make you check your family tree for potential backstabbers and reconsider every friendly conversation you've ever had. Before we dive into this festival of treachery that'll make trust issues look completely reasonable, hit that subscribe button and ring that bell, because Westeros Throne is about to expose the kind of family drama that makes your relatives look absolutely delightful by comparison. Let's start with a fundamental truth about Westeros. In the Game of Thrones, your biggest threats usually share your last name. Random enemies from foreign lands? Those are predictable. But family? Family knows your weaknesses, your secrets, your exact pressure points. Family can smile while sharpening knives, and nobody suspects a thing until it's way too late. And in the Targaryen family, where ambition flows thicker than blood and everyone thinks they're destined for greatness, betrayal isn't just possible. It's practically a tradition. The era we're exploring with Dunk and Egg is a pressure cooker of competing Targaryen interests. You've got multiple branches of the family, each convinced they've got the best claim to power. You've got old grudges simmering between relatives who haven't forgotten past slights. You've got ambitious lords whispering in royal ears about who should really be calling the shots. And you've got Egg, this idealistic kid who thinks treating people decently is revolutionary behavior, wandering around making enemies without even realizing it. Here's what makes the coming betrayal so devastating. It's going to come from someone Egg has every reason to trust. Not a distant relative he's met twice at awkward family gatherings. Not some bannerman with an obvious axe to grind. We're talking about someone close, someone who understands the family dynamics, someone who knows exactly how to weaponize information and relationships to maximum effect. This is betrayal as an art form, executed by someone who's studied the craft. The motivation behind this treachery is classic Targaryen thinking. Someone looks at Egg and sees danger. Not because he's violent or cruel, but because he's different. He hangs out with a lowborn hedge knight like they're equals. He cares what peasants think. He questions whether the nobility's privileges are justified. To traditionalists, Egg represents an existential threat to the entire social order. So they convince themselves that betraying him isn't personal. It's patriotic. It's protecting the realm from dangerous innovation disguised as reform. And here's the absolutely twisted part. From their perspective, they're not even wrong. Egg does threaten the established order. His ideas about justice and equality would absolutely upset the power structure that keeps nobility comfortable and common folk obedient. If you're someone benefiting from the current system, Egg looks less like a hero and more like a wrecking ball aimed at everything you value. So betraying him becomes easy to justify. You're not being evil. You're being practical. The mechanism of this betrayal is going to be surgical in its precision. No clumsy assassination attempts that could backfire. No obvious moves that everyone sees coming. Instead, we're getting sophisticated character assassination. Rumors that undermine Egg's judgment. Questions about his loyalty to family traditions. Suggestions that his common touch is actually manipulation. Strategic alliances that isolate him politically. Legal maneuvering that makes his position untenable. This is how you destroy someone in Westeros when you're too smart for crude violence. Now imagine being Dunk during all this. You're a straightforward guy. Someone insults your friend? You challenge them to combat. Someone threatens Egg? You put yourself between them and danger. Your entire moral framework is built on direct, honorable confrontation. Then suddenly you're facing an enemy you can't fight. How do you punch a reputation-destroying whisper campaign? How do you defend against strategic political isolation? It's like being a hammer in a world that suddenly needs a scalpel, and watching Dunk grapple with his own uselessness in this situation is going to hurt. The timing of this betrayal is brutally perfect. While Egg's out having adventures, learning about the realm, becoming a better person and future leader, his enemies are back at the centers of power, systematically dismantling his political future. By the time he realizes what's happening, the damage is already extensive. It's like studying abroad while your roommate convinces everyone you're terrible. You come home to a disaster you didn't even know was forming. What makes this betrayal truly realm-shaking is the precedent it establishes. Once family members can openly move against each other over ideological differences, the Targaryen unity that conquered Westeros is exposed as fiction. The fire and blood rhetoric that held the dynasty together reveals itself as conditional. And that fracture? It never fully heals. This is the beginning of the internal rot that eventually destroys House Targaryen from within. The personal cost to Egg is where this gets really heartbreaking. He's going to learn that good intentions don't protect you, that helping people doesn't guarantee loyalty, that family bonds are negotiable when ambition enters the equation. These are brutal lessons for anyone, but they're especially crushing for an idealistic kid who genuinely believes the world can be better if people just try harder. Here's the choice this betrayal forces on Egg: compromise his principles to survive, or maintain his integrity and accept the consequences. Fight fire with fire and become what he hates? Take the high road and watch his enemies win? Use his friendship with Dunk to intimidate opponents and prove his critics right about him being improperly influenced? Every option costs him something he can't afford to lose. The strategic brilliance of this betrayal is in its deniability. Nothing overtly illegal happens. No laws are broken. Just concerned family members expressing legitimate worries about a young prince's judgment. Just traditionalists defending time-honored customs against radical innovation. Just patriotic nobles protecting the realm's stability. How do you fight back against people who are technically doing everything correctly while destroying you? What amplifies the impact is how this betrayal shapes Egg's entire future. He survives it, obviously. We know he eventually becomes king. But this experience teaches him that the realm actively resists improvement. That nobility will fight reform with every weapon available. That being right isn't enough when your enemies control the narrative. These lessons stay with him through decades of rule, informing every frustrated decision, every compromised ideal, every moment of desperation that eventually leads him to Summerhall and Dragonfire. The dramatic irony is savage. We're watching Egg get betrayed, knowing it contributes to his eventual tragic obsession with restoring dragons. We're seeing the wounds form that never fully heal. We're WI10. Thanks for watching Westeros Throne, and remember, in the Game of Thrones, paranoia isn't a disorder. It's a survival strategy. Here is something else to consider about this release timing. By late 2025, it will have been over a year since House of the Dragon Season 2 aired, which means the fandom is going to be hungry for content. HBO is counting on that hunger to translate into massive viewership numbers for a night of the Seven Kingdoms. They are also probably hoping that the show will bring in new fans who might have been intimidated by the sprawling complexity of Game of Thrones or the heavy dragon-focused narrative of House of the Dragon. This is meant to be an accessible entry point, and the release date suggests HBO wants to make a big splash with it. Let's also talk about the international implications of this release, because Game of Thrones is a global phenomenon. A late 2025 release means HBO has time to coordinate with their international partners, set up simultaneous releases in multiple territories, and build hype worldwide. This is not just an American launch. This is going to be a global event, and HBO knows that the international audience is just as passionate about Westeros as domestic viewers. They're going to make sure that fans in every corner of the world can experience a night of the Seven Kingdoms at the same time, which is smart business and good fan service. Now, what should we be doing between now and the late 2025 premiere? Well, if you have not already, this is the perfect time to read the tales of Dunk and Egg novellas that the series is based on. They are quick reads, they are fantastic, and they will give you so much more context and appreciation for what the show is trying to accomplish. Plus, you will be able to smugly point out differences between the books and the show, which is basically a requirement for being in the Game of Thrones fandom. The release date announcement also means we're going to start seeing the cast do press tours, conventions,